Were you ever excited about a camera just to get your hands on it? All that creativity you could achieve? Yeah, I've been in exactly the same place. But for me, there was one, just one, that changed everything. For me, my hero camera is the Sony A7III. You look at this camera now, in 2022, almost 4 years after it was released, and many would dismiss it as a camera of the past. But the reality is, for me, it changed everything. I bought the A7III back in 2019, and it had only been out less than a year. I did what you're doing now. I watched people talk about it, and I saw what it was capable of. And after a bit of thinking, I made my purchase, and I have never regretted it. Now, I'm one of those people that keeps all the cameras I use, ever since starting out with my dad's Panasonic M10 back in 1991. And I'll be honest with you, I still can't believe that that was 31 years ago. And over that time, how things have changed. The size of cameras now and the technology inside them is incredible. At the time, with its new full-frame 24 megapixel sensor and 6K downsampling, the image out of the A7III was, and still is, remarkable. And the ability to shoot 100 frames a second with the clarity it does blew my mind. Whilst working at the BBC, I didn't really invest in camera tech at home. I used some very good cameras for work. But even for me, the alpha mirrorless cameras made big leaps in autofocus, and I saw this camera as a big upgrade from the likes of the FS5, which I used for work. And all in this small form factor. But is this the perfect camera? Well, of course not. That unicorn doesn't exist, and I don't think it ever will exist. But despite me lauding the qualities of this camera and telling you how it changed the game for me, it does have a few shortcomings. The Sony A7III is part of an older line of cameras which had record limits, so that means you can only record up to 30 minutes internally. More modern cameras, even the Sony ZV-1, which I reviewed recently, have unlimited recording, so that is something to consider. Something else to look at is the limitation of the 8-bit colour space. I guess this is only an issue if you do heavy colour grading. If not, then it's nothing to worry about. Other things like the absence of intra-frame recording and the micro HDMI port have been labelled as an issue with the A7III, but in reality they are minor marks against it. It is a well-rounded piece of hardware. Now, I think it would be fair to say we're all looking for a camera which ticks all the boxes and comes in at a very fair price. And the idea of a perfect camera is a subjective one because we all have different use cases. But the reality is we all have to make sacrifices. There are a lot of conversations on YouTube at the moment comparing the A7III to the A7 IV. Realistically, that comparison is never going to be a fair fight. The newer camera, unless it's a disaster, will always be more desirable. But while developing this video, I was thinking, what do we actually want cameras to do? Apart from the obvious answer of shoot video, we all have different needs. For me and my work, I want the ability to shoot 4K, 100 frames a second in 1080p at least, and have solid autofocus. Now, this camera has all of that, plus the 24 megapixel photos. Now, it's not flashy, nor is it top of the range, but it wasn't meant to be. And in 2022, it still holds up. When I got the A7III, I always had it on a gimbal, and it's always been a great gimbal camera. It was just light enough to put on a small gimbal like the Gimbal Lab, and for 18 months I used the camera for all of my BBC shoots. It was just that good at the time. But we must get serious for a second when we think about camera tech. Not everyone can afford the latest and greatest gear. Many of us have to accept the cameras we can afford. So if you're looking for a camera that shoots great quality video, then this is a workhorse and it won't let you down. Also, don't see the A7 III for what it doesn't have, see it for what it does have. And in my opinion, this camera has years left in it, so don't dismiss it just yet. It will still be going on shoots with me, maybe not as an A cam or even as a B cam, but it will continue to be my hybrid shooter. This for me was the camera that changed my mind about the full frame mirrorless world. It was the camera that put me on the path I'm on now, which is the freelance world with many possibilities. The Alpha 7 Mark III will always be my hero camera. So that was my story. So which camera is your hero camera? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and as always, take care.